Welcome. This, of course, is not Horse and Bear. I was running so late today, I didn't have time to pull up a video to play the starting soon screen and all that jazz. And besides, I noticed when I was listening to a playback the other day, when I try and play that shit through my computer, it sounds like ass. So what is this here now? All right. I have got, okay, I might disappear real quick because I'm a boomer and I might hit the wrong X here, but let's see. Nope, everything worked out fine. I hit the right X. But yeah, we're here today for morning coffee. I definitely got to get my shit together as far as producing and getting the right intros and outros and all that stuff. But always done that. And, he has recognized that how horrible I am at that stuff. So he has always done it. So I'm kind of left hanging out to dry when he's not here. Not that he hung me out to dry. I hang myself out to dry because I'm such an idiot. But so we're here today to finish reviewing the MDD debate. Do Christians have justification in believing in God? That was on the end of last week at some time. And it was between Canadian Catholic and Sal on the Christian side, Detroyer and Pogan on the atheist side. We got through about a fourth of it here last Friday. We got through like another, got to like the halfway point on Speed's channel that same day. So we're just a little bit past the halfway point of it right now. We're going to do our level best to get it done today. The way I look at it, we'll speed the how fast the video plays up and get through as much of it as we can. And then we'll finish it up over on Speed's channel. Among other things we'll talk about on Speed's channel later today. Because as you know, the MDD debates, they had the last part of it is like Q&A, and we're not going to have to, review the entire Q&A. We'll listen to a little bit of it, but there's no sense in reviewing the entire Q&A. So, and as I said, Speed's with us today. His channel is now known as Answers in Atheism. And he goes live every day at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. It's usually, there's a core of people that show up, Speed, of course, runs the show. Scott Duke usually shows up. Leo shows up over there an awful lot. Danny shows up there an awful lot. Top Dog, Shattuck, and a few other people, that seem to be the core of people that show up there. And how you doing today, Speed?
Doing okay. Doing pretty good. I'm awake, I think.
Well, yeah, he's at a little behind us in time over there in the Central. Yeah. And he and I are similar in that we don't have normal sleep patterns. So,
not anymore.
Yeah, never. You might be ready for it, kids. It'll happen to you too when you get a little older.
Yeah.
Richard Madsen's in the house. Long time no see, Richard. How are you doing? The Rage is not here today. If you see anything posted in the live chat under the Rage's name, that's me today. So just keep that in mind and don't hold anything I say stupid, against Rage. And Scott Duke, thank you so much. He's complimenting us on how neat and tidy our library is. Yes, I put a lot of time into that. Thank you for
my show.
Yeah. And I believe Speed posted a link to his channel in the chat. So please join us today at 3 p.m. Eastern. And the first thing we'll do is we'll finish up whatever little bit we have on this and then go on to other topics. And I also want to mention of course, we want you to, before coming here every day, go over at 9 a.m. every day and check out Laughing in Disbelief, Andy's channel. He has some very good content over there. Somewhere in the description, or I don't know where, but there's his link. And please go over and check him out. And then please give Speed's channel a look. He doesn't just go live every day at 3. He has, like, there was a premiere earlier this morning he put up with a conversation he had with, I believe, Scott Duke.
Yeah, and it's where Lena came up with Danny is Illuminati.
Right. So. And then he has the Saturday night at the Atheist every Saturday. I don't think there's any set time for that. It's just whenever you can fit it in the evening.
Usually 9. Yeah. Sometimes we do it on Sunday.
Yeah, which, as a matter of fact, that was the first time when I first was introduced to Speed's channel and met Speed. The first time I saw Saturday night at the Atheist, it was a Sunday night, and it kind of mind fucked me. I'm like, wait a minute, is this?
Yeah, because we don't follow any particular dogma.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, we're atheists. There's no dogma. There's
no dogma. We have no foundation for date and time. So
we have nowhere to be every day or every Sunday at, what is it, 10 in the morning or whatever.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, real quick. Ox is here. How you doing, Ox? Woolly Ignorant. Lena. That's about it. Yeah. I'm being a really slow old man today. Sydney Winston's here. Love his channel. Go check out Sydney Houston's channel. Very good channel over there. He has some very good content.
Woolly Ignorant.
Yeah. B is here. B, no, just B. All right. God equals square root of 1, my favorite name. All right. So there's a couple of quick things I want to talk about, and then we'll get into the debate. Okay. So you might be familiar with a pretty big channel on YouTube, kind of like a David Pakman-esque kind of channel, Brian Tyler Cohen. And I'm not even going to bother sharing the video because I just want to make a couple quick comments on it, give Speed a chance to comment. I have, oh man, I wrote it down too. Well, okay, yeah, it was at 54 seconds into the video. Missouri governor, whose name escapes me right now, it's Christy something. She was on Face the Nation yesterday. And at one point, the host started to talk to the governor about the fact that Missouri, for a pretty large time span over the past 8 or 9 months, her state has had the most COVID deaths. And they were also the state that hosted Sturgis this year. Or maybe that's where it is every year. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with that. And there was a lot of, go ahead, Speed.
Oh, I think that's South Dakota, Sturgis, isn't it?
Anyway. Well, no, she's Missouri governor. I think that Missouri did host it this year. I mean, I don't know, or maybe I'm confusing. It was another kind of meeting or something. But there was tens of thousands of people there. None of them were wearing masks. They weren't social distancing. Yeah. And a lot of cases came out of that, and a lot of deaths. So and I say that when it comes to that, they can't track everything. So they.
Oh my God, I got to tell you, I just checked Minnesota's COVID cases yesterday. 666 is the number.
Oh wow.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing we don't believe in any of that shit. But so. When it comes to this tracking, okay, of course they're doing the best they can, and they say, well, this many cases came out of it because those are the ones they were able to track. And then they say that in Missouri, it was a certain number of deaths, maybe in the hundreds. Another state that people came from to go to that event had like 291 deaths they could link back to, that event. But I say, and without really any empirical evidence to show you, but just knowing, how that kind of stuff works, keeping track of shit like that, I say that whatever figures they give you have to be low. I mean, because there's no way that could be 100% accurate in doing their tracking. What do you say to that, Speed?
No.
Yeah. So at any rate, the reason I bring this up, when the host of the show was going through all the statistics about the cases and the deaths that were directly related to this event, and it must, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and say it was like a nervous tick or something, but she got a big ass smile on her face. And like the host had said, and this number of deaths, and she just grinned ear to ear. And it was the creepiest shit I've ever seen. On that Brian Tyler Cohen video, which I will link in the description, and it's at, I believe it was 54 seconds. I can check on that, once we get into the show, and I can open my phone and look. And I put a comment in the comments that maybe that's not the right time to smile.
Yeah.
What do you think, Speed?
Nope, not the right time. Yeah, I saw Trump do that a few times too, where it's almost like they're not connected, to the idea that people are dying. I don't know.
That's Speed's room. One of Speed's roommates that just walked by the camera there that you saw.
The cat I didn't eat.
The cat you didn't eat. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to touch on real quick before we start the review is there was a video about some dumbass at a casino that the guards were trying to. Nope, sorry, that wasn't the video. It was a video of a baseball game where you were viewing it from behind the umpire, and the pitcher threw a ball that was literally, no exaggeration, it was 2 feet outside, and the umpire called a strike. And the young man that was hitting, he walked in front of the plate and drew a line on the other side of the plate, like that's where that damn ball was, and the umpire threw him out. Well, in the comments section, I went into the comments section to look at comments, and somebody had made a comment about the umpire, something he had said that made him kind of look weak, when the kid drew the line. And this person had commented, "Who says that? That's so gay." Well, the reason I bring this up, I don't want to sound like some, the pejorative sense that right wingers use SJW as like I'm some, but I'm a person, I'm 57 years old. Speed is 70 years old. There was a time, and I'm not going to speak for Speed, I'll let him decide, but there was a time where that kind of stuff went around all the time. When I was in high school, we used that word to rip on people all the time. But times have changed, okay? And to use the word gay as a pejorative, and in the context of this, of what this person posted, there was no doubt that they were using that term as if to say, there's something wrong with this guy. Look how gay he is. And when you do that, it may be an innocent thing to the person who does that because they're not aware of what they're doing, but it's no different than any other bigotry. Okay. When you use that to say somebody's bad, you're disrespecting the LGBT community. Okay. And I know it's difficult, more difficult for people, of my age, of Speed's age, and not all of them, but like a lot of people in that demographic, it's the idea of change, I think, that really gets them off. Yeah. But I just wanted to bring it up and to just have people, I'm not going to badmouth anybody, but just please give that some thought, because the context of this person's comment, there was no doubt that he was trying to say that this person was stupid. Okay. They had done something dumb, but he said gay. And it's just not a good thing to do that. And I just ask everybody to consider that, make up your own mind, but just know that there's a large segment of the population out there that when you use that terminology to say someone is bad, they're gonna think you're bad for doing it.
Yeah. There's something we're going to address on the weather report. An interesting thing that happened between Danny and Matt Ox last night. That kind of like that's kind of similar about this using sexual orientation as a pejorative, and it came up, and it was really interesting. But we will address that on the weather report. But I think what like for a while when I was in 7th grade, we called people homo, and we didn't know what the fuck that meant. We didn't know what it meant. But it was, you know, and then there's the word pussy, which I actually could modify to pussy willow. We need a way to say that somebody is being weak in their action without being that covers both women and men, because, you know, women can do it as well, right?
Right,
And
right.
we need some new, better words for all this stuff. And of course, pussy, a part of pussy willow, has gotten its own bad connotation, right?
Right, right. Back in our day, yeah, that was where the pussy came from. Was from
But it
pussy
meant pussy
willow.
willow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because before generations before me and Speed, that's what they would say, that whole thing. They would say pussy. They would call someone a pussy willow, you know, meaning that they were weak, and then it got shortened down to pussy, and now it has a whole different connotation.
Whole different meaning.
Yeah, yeah, and it's especially, you know, like I mentioned, it's especially wrong that if you're trying to be pejorative to somebody. I'm not balking at that. Certainly, people, you know, have a right to rip on one another and point out other people's faults. But when you use words, when you use the identifying terms of certain groups that have every right to identify as they are, or even if you're using terminology that indicates a group that, you know, like a race or something like that, there's really no difference in it as far as bigotry goes, to, you know, say, you know, pejorative statements about a race, or use pejorative statements about a sexual orientation or how someone identifies. And we just got to change with the times. I mean, that is the only thing that is a constant in our lives, is that things are going to change.
Yeah.
And me and Speed know that maybe a little better than some of the younger folks. Yeah. So, and just one other thing, this has come up in recent days, and I just want to say something about the people that balk on the pronouns, people picking their pronouns. And again, this is another issue that, Speed being 70, me being 57, this is something that if this had come up 40 years ago for me, I would be just like any other people that are out there now balking at it, because I wouldn't have understood it, you know. But it's not even really that big a deal. I mean, if someone says to you, "Hey, I go by this or that," you know, if you have to use a pronoun, please use this. It's no big deal. And people that want you to change how you address them, for the most part, they're very understanding. Okay, they know that it's something you have to get used to. I mean, I accidentally misgendered people or used the wrong pronoun, and then I feel mortified. And I can't think of one time when I've done that, and then it dawned on me that I had done it, and I apologized to the person. They were very cool about it. They're like, "Yeah, hey, no problem. Takes some getting used to," something like that. But so I was just researching it because I had a bit of a spat, not a spat, but a disagreement with one of my family members, because they were one of the people like, "Oh, fuck that. I'm not going to, they, them. That's bullshit. That's plural anyway." Fact of the matter is, the singular usage of they and them has been something in our language and other languages for a long, long time. It's not something that's new. They and them in the singular form has been around since the 14th century.
Yeah. And after you start using it, it actually kind of feels right, oddly. And, you know, and I was and there was a time when it's like, "Oh, you're not going to tell me how to change my language," and all that bullshit. And, you know, I don't know. I've kind of gotten over that. I'm so over that.
Yeah. And the thing is, well, right. And like you, YOU, that's a genderless pronoun.
Yeah.
Nobody balks at that. And it's even without the sexual orientation or the gender identification or whatever's behind it, even without considering that at all, they and them is used in the singular in many instances because of if you're speaking of someone whose gender you don't know, like you hear that a person had done something, but they weren't indicating whether it was a man or a woman, then you would use they, them, they did this, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the singular usage is not some new advent that just came around since, society's been trying to be more woke, but there's not anything wrong with that. Now, the one side uses woke as a pejorative, but what's wrong with advancing in our society and treating everyone the same?
If you want to rewire your brain on they and them, watch the series Billions, because in the process of the series, they will teach you how to rewire your brain on using those terms. So it's really cool.
I forgot about that. Yeah, the character in that. Yep.
Yeah, it's amazing character. Amazing character. So,
anyway. In fact, I still have yet to watch the last season of Billions. I got to get over and see that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to get into the review now. I think I already mentioned it, but I'm not sure. I know I mentioned Laughing in Disbelief. We mentioned Speed's channel, Answers in Atheism, but correct me if I'm wrong. Did I mention about being on Godless Granny's show?
I don't think you told me backstage, but I don't think you said.
Yeah. So tomorrow night, Godless Granny is having an open room with a bunch of us. I can't remember the other folks that are going to be there. I just know Granny's going to be there. I'm going to be there, and we were told to bring our favorite geek topics, and that should be fun. The topic I want to bring up there is I started watching the original series Star Trek. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. There's a lot of interesting things that came out of that series. Actually, there's technology that was inspired out of that series that we use now. But stop over to Godless Granny's tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. And I wish I could remember the other folks' names. My apologies. I will put a link to that in the description. And, of course, the link, if you click on it, it will show you the entire guest list. So, Speed, go ahead and vamp for me for a minute, will you?
Go ahead and what?
Vamp.
What the hell is that?
Oh, my God. You're 70 years old and you don't know what vamp means?
Nope.
Jesus.
Learn something new every day.
Hey. That's right. Well, what it is, when you say to vamp, that means like you gotta cover the dead airspace while I'm bringing this video up that I should have brought up like 10 minutes ago.
Oh my God, me covered. Okay, go ahead. I'll try.
All right. It's just like tell a story about the problems you're having with your hemorrhoids or something.
Got nothing. Anyway,
I don't know, what's it doing around where you're at now? Because I know where I'm at, we've had rain the last couple of days. It's been getting a little warmer. We had like a foot of snow on the ground, and I went out there this morning, and it's 75-80% of it's gone.
Yeah, you see that big sunny streak right there? I got to go pull that shade and get rid of that shit. But it's been sunny and pretty cool. It's warming. Well, we had a cold day yesterday, today is the coldest, and it's going up to like 40, 50. So snow's going away. Summer's coming. It's pretty cool. Anyway, vamp. Let's see. I don't know. We did I did a premiere earlier about morality, and I'm trying to build a basis for morality, and so I did my best job at explaining it. I'm hoping that somebody will watch it and help me build, basically, on the idea. So doing that, and I don't know what else to do as far as vamping. I don't know. Danny is Illuminati. That came up on that series. Lena Pa actually invented that one. We decided that Danny could be Illuminati, and we're keeping an eye on that. So, but we'll discuss more. Danny has become a feature on the Weather Report. So.
Yes, he is one of the regulars for sure.
Regulars. And Otangelo. Oh, Otangelo today Last night, Otangelo said, we were talking about a paper, and he was like, lol, LOL. And I said, okay, let's do this new series, me and you reading a paper, and it'll be called LOL Reading Papers with Otangelo. And the paper he wanted to bring up is the paper that we just kicked his ass on last week. He wants to read it again. He wants to double down. I feel so bad doing it, but if that's what he wants to do, we'll do it. So
I mean, I think that would be a great thing, like just you and Otangelo and maybe Immutable or Scott, and because he brings these papers to the show, claiming that they say one thing, and there's been a few times now where we broke it down right during the show and showed that he was completely wrong on how he was reading the paper. So it would be really cool for you guys to go through a paper in real time and Otangelo's take on what a section said. And then you guys either confirm he's right or show him where he's wrong. I think that would be great if Otangelo is willing to take part in that.
Yeah, and this one is amazing. It's like you're in front of this bar and you say, you know what, I'm going to go show these assholes a thing or two. And you walk into the bar and they beat the living shit out of you and throw you out, by your seat of your pants, right? And then you say, I'm going back in that same bar and I want to show them a thing or two. And that's what Otangelo wants to do. He wants to go over the same paper. I don't know. I feel bad, but we'll do it.
What just happened here? Oh, there we go. All right. Let me expand that. And I believe we were about at the 52-second mark. I'm giving a justification. Oh, and you know what? I don't. What I want to. God darn it. So apparently when you expand the screen...
This is the checkers game where grandson and granddad will bond.
This is fun. What's a verbal?
This is the pool where cannonball records will be broken.
Boy, I'll be so glad when Knox back.
I don't have...
Yeah, at least people are able to get a laugh on me.
50 something. Did you write the time?
52, I think it was. But yeah, I mean, and one thing, I was going to say too, when we were talking about, that doing that thing over on Speech Channel, I do want to give Otangelo credit, okay? Because he does come into rooms when he sometimes was the only YEC there, oftentimes on Speech Channel. And then he gets beat down. And like the last time when we had showed him that the paper, he was wrong about his assessment of the paper, we thought for sure we wouldn't see him for a couple of weeks.
He came right back.
Came right back the next day. So I got to give him credit for having some intestinal fortitude, and for, believing in what he believes in, to the extent of he isn't afraid to go into the lion's den.
And he doesn't do a lot of ad hom, exactly. A little bit, maybe here and there when he's in chat, but he's a pretty damn nice guy. So
yeah, he is. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, as much as I agree or disagree with Otangelo on a lot of things. Sometimes we'll have my stream and you can hear his kids in the background. There's no doubt in my mind that he's the kind of person that's probably a very excellent father. And but for the chance that they're going to grow up to believe Otangelo's sense of science, I believe his children are in very good hands.
Yep, they'll get over that when they go to college. So
yeah. All right, let's see. We'll get this up here, and we're gonna start it a little bit. Yeah, right there. Wait on. How about? All right, that's close. I can get it. All right, here we go.
Policy is just such that I would be apt to develop that belief. And so some more would have to be shown that the belief is in fact warranted in terms of the arguments. And as Pogan pointed out, correctly about pointing to well-educated people who hold these beliefs. The question is not, of course, whether there are people intelligent people that hold these beliefs. It's whether they have good evidence and arguments in favor of those beliefs, and if they do.
Well, and then for those that may be joining us for the first time, this fucking brain bug commenting on what I was saying about Tangelo. Brain bug says this is basically John Peterson asking Otangelo to take their relationship to the next level. Yes, Otangelo. Yes, brain bug. So yeah, this debate, if I didn't point it out, it was the two Christians, Canadian Catholic and Sal Cordova, against Pogan and Detroyer on whether Christians are justified in their belief of God. And in the beginning of it, Pogan and Detroyer seemed to be having problems with getting Canadian Catholic or Sal to actually lay out an argument. Canadian Catholic, I don't know, a lot of people likened it to Darth Dawkins. He wanted to sit there and question Detroyer and Pogan instead of Pogan had said, or Detroyer had said, well, look, this is what the topic of the debate is. Why don't you lay out your case, your positive case for it, and then we can respond to that. And he wanted to run the script where he was asking questions, and that didn't go well. There was a lot of go ahead, speak.
Yeah, the script is basically trying to pick the atheist apart and show what a fool he is, and that seems to be a real common theme in this whole YouTube sphere lately. Is the Christians are like, oh yeah, we're gonna show the atheist up by asking him questions, and yeah, that's all it was.
Yeah, and it's very flat earthish.
Yes.
Ask a flat earther to give their flat earth model, and 99% of them won't even attempt to do it. They just want to rip on globe earth. And that's what this amounts to. Now, the reason I stop it is I believe it was Detroyer that was talking, and I just want to step in and say that I agree with what he was saying. He's basically saying something I've been saying for a long time. Just because someone has a God belief doesn't mean they're crazy, doesn't mean they're stupid. It just means that they have an irrational belief or a few irrational beliefs. I mean, we don't have Christians, walking through life and walking into traffic and getting run over and drinking bleach and stuff like that. So they're not idiots, in and of their belief in God. Although that all atheists would say that that's an irrational belief.
Yeah, I think Lena Pa is a really good example of somebody who believes, who is intelligent and open-minded and rational. And so, and I've mentioned Cy Gart before, there's another person, and, you can believe in, but it's these creationists. Okay. And I will withhold my comments about them for the moment.
James Hogue, does Otangelo have a small corner office in John's brain?
I think Danny's got a front office in her brain lately.
Yeah, well, then you're jumping ahead here. You're being very prescient. That's what James said. And then Scott Duke comes back with,
"Oh, really? Yeah, corner office these days.
I think Danny has the same office these days. Otangelo is in an office halfway down from the water cooler."
Danny is actually the security guard or the receptionist at the front of the office. So that's his office. So
yeah. And then the Tentai says that no, but John has a corner office in Otangelo's. Yes, that's great. That's great. All right, let's get back to it here.
Or if it's your contention that they do, well, I prefer that you point out the evidence and arguments that they have instead of just merely gesturing at those people, suggesting that they don't have it. And finally, you mention life, or the origin of life is a miracle. There's quite a few issues here to bring up. I'm not sure how much I want to get into at the outset. I'm not sure how deep we're going to go into that. But one concern that I think was Pogan's is that how do you rule out the possibility of some natural explanation for the origin of life, or at least show that probably there is no natural explanation. And second, even if you could show that, how do you show that probably the explanation for the origin of life is godlike being? Because after all, those aren't exclusive and exhaustive categories. And I guess those would be the two main concerns there. And there's some others I have against the theory in general. I think it's the miracle maker theory of the origin of life is a very poor theory, and I can get into some of my criticisms of that as we get to it. I think also there's other.
Well, and you know, and this is something that's been talked about a lot in the atheist community on different channels and everything. Is that, you know, he's right, because, and an example of this just happened yesterday on Speed's channel, that a lot of theists jump to these conclusions without having an exhaustive list of the possibilities. You know, so to jump to God, even if when you say intelligence, and this is what Otangelo did yesterday, he was interacting with Peter, Gonna Go For It. That's the name of his channel. And at one point, Otangelo was saying, all right, well, you know, there's no, in his mind, he says there's no question but that there's an intelligence behind these different biological functions and behind the creation of them, or for lack of a better term, I'm not acquiescing to the idea of creationism, but or how they came about, you know, how they came into being. And then he went on to say, well, it doesn't matter, you know, what intelligence you want to call it. It could be any intelligence. And then he went on to list a bunch of different gods, different religions on the planet and their gods. And then when he got done, I said, well, wait a minute. That's not an exhaustive list of all intelligences, possible intelligences. So he's got his Christian blinders on so much that even when he went to describe the different kind of intelligences that could possibly be responsible for the beginning of life, it was just all gods. It was a list of gods.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of other possibilities. Like one possibility for the origin of life is that we were all created last Thursday and all these memories are implanted. I mean, you can make up any shit you want if you're going to allow for magic. And I don't think they get that part. And I mean, you could make up anything you want. Like another one I saw, I think I saw it in a movie once, or maybe I made it up. I don't know. But what if some super intelligent race in the future learned how to go backwards in time and create life that created them? And it was a perfect loop. And there was no other goddamn explanation for it other than that. I mean, it's like, oh, that doesn't make sense, but it kind of does.
Well, and
right?
Many of us atheists, we do refer to their explanations of what God did as, I mean, you're basically just saying magic. And unfortunately, to them, that's a pejorative. To them, that's us diminishing their beliefs and everything. But when they describe something that happened that just poof happened by some being's words or hands, it's hard not to, you know, just refer to it as magic.
And the other thing that if you do that, if you allow for magic, well, then you can cover any evidence that we ever come up with in the future and have that support your theory, because you've already accepted your theory. And if it's magic, well, God could have done it any which way you want. Like Sal Cordova famously says that the reason that God created chimpanzees is so that medical community didn't have to subject humans to the kind of torture they inflict on primates when they're testing a new drug. That's his theory. God did that. I think I'd ask the chimpanzees about that, but how they feel about that, I don't know.
Well, I mean, and there are currently primates besides human beings on this planet right now that have always been able to communicate amongst themselves, but now in the last several decades, there's chimpanzees that have been taught to communicate with humans.
Yeah.
They don't use our language, but they mostly use hand signals and things like that. But there's chimpanzees, there's primates on this planet. We could go ask about that right now. Hey, how would you like to have a needle poked in you that's going to make you sick?
Reminds me of the South Park episodes where they have the cows and they're talking about eating the cows, and the cows are like, what? And they all look up. They're like, what are you saying?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah.
All right, let's see here. Let's get this going. All right, God damn it, Boomer.
Other evidence against miracles in general, but those concerns we can get to if the time comes.
I just had just a quick question. And so does the epistemic sense take priority over the pragmatic sense? I mean, that's just both rhetorical. You don't have to answer that. I'm just throwing that out there because for a lot of the viewers out there, this is a very personal thing. It's not just a philosophical issue. I mean, there's yeah. So
with respect to the topic,
for me, I've never even thought about the epistemic sense. As you know, I'm in the engineering field. It's like, no, I don't even think about things in terms of epistemic proofs. It's like,
so I think there's some reasonable confusion. Detroit can follow me up on here. Follow me up on this. When the proposition was initially given to us, the operative word rationally is used, which in all likelihood is going to imply some sort of epistemic grounds of the discussion. Like I said a second ago, if it's already
Are you doing bird calls?
that you think
No.
people can hold to their own reasons to believe in God, be those anecdotal experiences, be those somebody telling them about an experience they had, anything like that, right? That's one thing. But I think given the context of the debate and what we discussed initially when we started the stream, it is reasonable for us to request some epistemic account of belief in God being justified. Which it seemed, I mean, Canadian Catholic alluded to having an argument, which unfortunately he seemed uninterested in writing. So I think what would be more interesting is, you don't have to give like a formal argument or anything along those lines. Just give some sort of consideration to somebody like us to think it's reasonable to hold to the existence of God. But Detroit can follow me up on that if he so chooses.
Well, and just to speak to that real quick, when you talk about burden of proof, of course, someone is going to claim, hey, there's this dude in the sky that's responsible for everything. I think that requires, more of a burden of proof if you are absolute, which a lot of Christians do, which they're absolutely saying they know there is a God. But when it comes to any just belief position, you don't really have a burden of proof. What you have is like just a burden of justification. It's a much simpler bar to get over. Like if I say I don't believe that gods exist, and someone asked me to substantiate why I believe that, it could be something as simple. Well, I've looked at the evidence and I find it lacking, or everything that's ever been explained throughout history has always been a natural causation, something like that. And if Christian, and a lot of times I think Christians that say, well, no, I'm not saying I know there's a God, but I believe, and this is why, I think that some of them, and I'm just going to say his name, Tangelo claims that he doesn't necessarily know that God exists. He said that before, but then he'll go on and every word that comes out of his mouth makes him sound like he's saying he knows that God exists. So yeah, when you're talking about like some kind of justification for a belief, it isn't like Detroit just said. You don't have to like give a formal argument or anything. You just need to give some simplistic explanation of what your rationale is.
Yeah, like I think what Sal was alluding to there is this personal experience with God, okay, that they talk about. And one of the things that really irritates me about atheist experience is that anytime somebody talks about that, they never ask them, what do you mean? What does it feel like? What is this personal experience like? And this is one of the reasons why I got into the YouTube community to begin with, is to talk about that issue. What is that personal experience with God?
Well, and what I've always likened it to is that they're mislabeling something, because I don't fault them for their feelings, okay, for their belief that they had this experience or whatever, or their belief that, some outside force was talking to them. But what I think that those are is some humans, and humans that believe in God, they have an epiphanous thought, or they, have a moment of clarity in their life. And rather than give themselves credit for it, because of their beliefs, like that voice in your head that you're hearing, that's your own voice. Okay. That's not God's voice. That's, epiphany that you had that made you look at something in a different way. Like for people that, like Rage has been very honest, throughout the course of having his channel, that when in his younger days he was a gangbanger and he had some pretty bigoted thoughts about different groups of human beings, and he came around to see how that was wrong. Think about somebody that believes in God. They take in information and they come to some kind of conclusion like that, like, boy, those beliefs of mine, those thoughts I were having are wrong. And they would say, thank you, dear God, for making me see the light, when it was really the human being that came to that determination.
Yeah, there's this opens up a whole big subject, and I think it comes under the we have the common name for it, air quotes, spirituality, and everybody feels this. Atheist, Buddhist, Christian, Muslim, whatever. Everybody feels this many times in their life. And when you attach it to a dogmatic or to a dogma with religion, then it starts to sound like, Jesus is talking to you, or you have a personal experience with Yahweh or whatever. But we all feel the same thing. I was on Nephilim's channel one night, and he was talking about a spiritual experience that he had. And then I talked about this very same kind of experience that I had. But I told him I had that experience, but I did not attach Christianity to it. And he's like, oh, well, you didn't have the real experience. It wasn't the real thing. No true Scotsman, right? So, I mean, there is a basis to these religious feelings, and you do not have to dogmatize them. And that's what I keep trying to get through to Christians, that atheists have these same experiences. Atheists have the same relationship with life. When you hug your child, when you feed the raccoons, when you pet your kitty, when you go out and see a sunset. It's like, oh my God, epiphany,
And just so you know, speed meant when you actually pet a kitten, not pet your kitty. But at any rate,
wait a minute.
Pet your kitty. I don't know.
You went somewhere dark with that, didn't you,
Yeah,
John?
that could mean a couple different things. And then so like what Speed was just saying though, it brought coffee to mind. I'm probably saying that name wrong. Kafie or EI, or you guys have seen him around, and he talks about the psychedelics. You talk about spiritual experiences. Now I was a Christian, for the first 35 years of my life, and after I stopped being a Christian, I tripped for the first time. And boy, you go talk about a spiritual experience. Yeah. I mean, you just love everything when you're tripping balls.
Yeah. I don't know. And then I had an experience when I was 15 years old. That was a burning bush, grand mal spiritual experience. And I was an atheist prior, during, and after. And I had and I try to talk to them about that experience. When they talk about the personal relationship with God, I know they are talking about the same feelings that I had and the same experience, except the experience that I had actually blew my mind up for 3 days. And that was prior to me ever having done a drug, and I wasn't drinking. I was a kid, right? And
right.
And so these things exist, and they've been talked about. Huxley talks about them. William James talks about them. Even Bill W. from AA fame talks about these experiences. They are a thing that happens to humans. For God's sake, let's look at the neuroscience of what happens, and let's stop with the dogma.
Yeah. I mean, that's much like Kavi, he experiences those spiritual moments when he trips, and he directly connects it to God. He says that if you take the right dose of a psychedelic, you will meet God, is the way he puts it. And that's I'm sorry, he's just having an experience due to the chemicals, and he's labeling it something that it is not. And you're just full of euphemisms today, Speed.
Am I?
Yeah, pet your kid, burning bush,
Full of shit.
burning bush. I had a one night stand one night, and then I had a burning bush the next morning. So, all right, let's.
You went somewhere dark with that too, didn't you, John?
Yeah, I did. I go dark a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, that all seems good. I mean, we could explore this further. I think what I said in brief response to Sal's question is, well, it's going to depend on what we mean by priority. But with respect to the debate topic, of course, the epistemic notion is a big priority, because I think when we're talking about justification here for some belief, we're talking about epistemic justification. And if that's not clear, I don't.
Well,
then maybe there is some confusion.
I thank you for clarifying, and you are certainly putting interesting things on the table. In science, we have things called working hypothesis. That means that we may not have absolute proof, but there's enough intuition to drive us to think about something. And so from the epistemic sense, I thought I provided at least something to spark interest. The one reason I did appeal to some of these people rather than going into the details is the details would be ours. I'll point to the viewers to a series by a world-class chemist. By the way, he had converted to Christianity, an atheist, who I showed a picture of, is Richard Smalley. James Tour was his employee, and he's now giving a series on abiogenesis. And many people that see that kind of see what I'm seeing and what a lot of other people are seeing in the epistemic sense. And this is beyond, personal anecdotes. So as far as positive evidence, I would actually say, yeah, I totally respect that you'll say that there's no positive evidence. What do I mean by positive evidence?
See, and this guy better than I do, but he's still not getting it. He's not even responding to what Detroyer just said, okay? And he talks about working hypothesis. I find that very interesting. I mean, does he consider his belief that God exists a working hypothesis? I don't think he does.
No, he doesn't. He sees all of science through that lens, and he only looks at science. He led on that he did a Google search. He came up with this paper, and he had done a Google search for is evolution useless, right? And if that's what you search for, then that's what you're going to find. Google does that, right? So I did it on my stream yesterday. I was Googling while we were talking, and I searched for is evolution or what's wrong with evolution or something, and you come up with this whole list of top creationist sites and then all this bullshit. But I mean, it's bias, right? And he's looking at it through this biased lens. When he talks about science, when Tour talks about science, when Smalley talks about science, they're looking at it through this. They absolutely know that God is at the source. God created it, right? And everything they see is in those terms, and they cannot get by it. Otangelo, it's just like a brick wall that when you try to talk to them about science. It's amazing.
Well, and example of that yesterday when we were talking to Otangelo, and I forget. I think it was when he was talking to Peter, and he said, "Well, here I have this paper." Well, then it turns out 5 minutes later, we find out that this paper that he was referring to and wanted us to look at, he had just found it moments later by doing one of those, biased keyword searches like Speed's talking about. And then, when we started talking to him about it, and I forget, something was pointed out to where, the subject was that he was claiming that cells were engineered, because in the scientific community, they have for the longest time used terms like that just as a place marker for understanding, like referring to a cell as a machine or a factory, or, saying cells engineered. And it turned out this paper he brought up said nothing about claiming that the cells were engineered. It was a paper about scientists who were attempting to engineer cells themselves.
Yeah, and he had been right. Oh no, I was wrong. Okay, it's the wrong paper. It's like, yeah, guys. Like I always tell Cell, instead of searching for problems in evolution, why don't you search for how did a ribosome evolve? And you will find hundreds of papers with hundreds of ideas about how it could have happened. So anyway,
and the last thing that when I stopped it that Sal was talking about is that he had apologized. Well, the reason I didn't go into any of the details. Well, dude, that's what this debate is supposed to be about.
Right.
Is your belief in God justified? This is what you're expected to do, is to give details on that topic. So you balking at that, you're basically saying you're not prepared for this debate.
Yep. And they weren't.
Where you could say, I flipped the switch for a light bulb, and it obeys my commands, and I can believe then that the light bulb exists and the switch is working. I totally get that. We tend to believe what we can understand and control, and that's perfectly fine. But if there's a divine being there who's not going to be subject to our whims and our experiments, then okay, so I get the point. There could be a sentient being who's not going to be beholden to our whims and decide to show up when we want, how we want, and according to our demands. And so if that's what would count as positive evidence for you, I respect your viewpoint. That's just not for me.
Maybe we can circle this.
My understanding is that working hypotheses are.
Go ahead. Yeah, I just want to get Canadian going here a little bit.
That.
Yeah, I'm interested in him delivering the argument.
So, as everyone saw, my first case I wanted to make, Hogan unfortunately didn't have the testicular fortitude to engage with, so it doesn't require interaction because you do not have the testicular fortitude to interact with me. So maybe I will present an
Well,
argument.
I asked you to deliver an argument.
Do not open your mouth when I'm in the middle of something.
Well, I asked you to deliver.
So
He had Hogan, right? He didn't have the fortitude.
Right. Well, and again, this is what we dealt with at the beginning when we reviewed the beginning of the debate, is that much like Sal, Canadian Catholics' resistance to actually addressing the topic of the debate, is the Christians' belief in God justified? I'm probably paraphrasing, but that was the question for this debate. And had the question been reversed and said, is our atheists' refusal to believe in God justified? There is no doubt that if Detroyer and Pogan had been the first ones to speak, they would have laid out the framework of their argument of why they believe that. They would have given their rationale and their justifications. It wouldn't have been, like Detroyer said, like a formal argument, but they would have at least laid out why it is they don't believe in God. And what Canadian Catholic did, as soon as he was allowed to open his mouth, he wanted to question the atheists at length to critique their view as a positive case for his view of Christianity.
Yeah. I think later on, Canadian Catholic does lay out some kind of precept syllogism or something. But anyway.
Okay, look, right, in my part of the country, you don't open your mouth.
Let Canadian, hold on, let Canadian finish what he has to say, then we'll go back to you.
What did he say?
So, I wanted to make an interaction.
No, praise in his StreamYard. He has to keep resetting it, I think. Are you wrong, John? John, are you muted? Something went wrong, I think.
All contingent facts have an explanation. Right? This is that all contingent beings.
Yeah, if you wanted to comment, go ahead. I got to mute for just one more second. I'm talking to Knock right now.
Okay, when you mute, we can't hear the video. So, anyway.
All right. Well, I apologize. I forgot about that. Yeah, I muted because the phone rang, and I guess that stops the audience from hearing the.
Yes, it did.
Hearing the fucking thing I'm playing.
Yeah, you kind of left me out here to dry. Go ahead, mute for a while.
Well, no, I'm just saying goodbye to him. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, when were you thinking?
Don't stop interrupting us. Holy shit.
Okay. All right. I'll get hold of you later. Bye. Well, no, that was Knock doing to me what I've done to him a bunch of times. The audience knows he'll be in the middle of streaming, and I don't realize he's streaming, and I call him on the phone, and then the phone will start ringing, and he'll answer, and I'll be like, John, I'm live right now, and talk to me for a minute, and then he's got to go back to the audience and say, yeah, there's John interrupting my stream again. So he finally got back at me for that. So let's back this up a little bit. Was there anything? Is that the only reason you wanted to stop? It's just to tell me what an idiot I was, and hey, nobody can hear anything.
Well, that's part of it, but he was going on about fortitude, and he was talking about, I don't know about how you act but in my neck of the woods. So Canadian Catholic is like getting all Cohoney-like on him. I don't know what the hell that's all about, but anyway, let's see if we can.
Well, and then they all claimed at the top of the debate that Canadian Catholic, Detroyer, and Pogan are friends, and they interact on Discord all the time. But they're being kind of fresh with one another. And I mean, there are people in the community. Who was it? Oh, it was Danny, as a matter of fact, who was claiming that this was all an act on Canadian Catholic's part.
Okay. Well, we'll give him that. We'll give him that.
As everyone saw, my first case I wanted to make, Hogan unfortunately didn't have the particular fortitude to engage with, so it doesn't require interaction because you do not have the testicular fortitude to interact with me. So maybe I will present an argument.
I asked you to deliver an argument.
Do not open your mouth when I'm in the middle of something.
Well, I asked you to deliver an argument.
Okay, look, right, in my part of the country, you don't open your
You're just
mouth.
making personal
Let
attacks.
Canadian, hold on, let Hogan, let Canadian finish what he has to say, then we'll go back to you.
Okay. So, just I wanted to make an interactive case, but Hogan chickened out. So we're going to do it without it. So basically, the argument I'm going to present will be a more modest form. I do not know if it's like the first one I was making. Obviously, they didn't let me get in because Hogan knew he would get destroyed. But on the second part, I will make an argument that people can respond to. That's the position. I plan this on. So basically, I'm going to be arguing that the theists are justified in believing in a necessary existence that explains all contingent beings. So we begin with the assertion that contingent beings exist. Well, the premise, I guess. I do not expect this premise to be challenged, that contingent beings exist. And I just want to draw your attention that this is not the standard principle of sufficient reason, which says that all contingent facts have an explanation. Right? This is that all contingent beings exist. And the second premise, which I originally anticipated, is that all contingent beings that exist must have an explanation for their existence. Denial of this premise, I argue, will commit my opponent, Hogan, to empirical skepticism. Not that he knows what that is. I'm just saying you ought to jot down this note. Premise 3 is there is an explanation.
So why do we have to stop the shit so often with these people? All right. First of all, he's trying to sneak an idea in there that is like a begging the question. And I even since I stopped, but I forgot the exact words. But he said all beings that exist. Did he use the word purpose?
No, contingent beings. Basically, a being could have been or could not have been. And so all contingent beings exist. And then premise 2 is there must be an explanation for why they exist. Because something.
Okay, that's it. Okay, you said have an explanation.
Yeah, I don't know what 3 is.
Yeah, no, they don't. The explanation is that for whatever kind of being you are, a fertile pair of the same types of beings procreated. That's why you exist. Okay, there's no
something like that. Yeah, we could look at it that way, but must have an explanation. I don't know. We're not obligated to explain shit. So let's see what 3 is.
Well, right. I mean, I understand that that what I'm saying is the only must have an explanation there is what I just said. You exist because two breeding pairs of whatever type of being you are, whether it's a human or an animal, or whether it's a human or another type of animal, let me put it that way. That's the explanation. There's
Yeah,
no deeper explanation. And I also stopped because I should say this before I do a boomer moment and forget about it at the end. The reason Nanaka called me is he wanted me to let everybody know that he is going to go live. He's going to take a break from his break and go live at 1 p.m. Eastern today.
Cool.
And the reason, well, it's not so cool in that the reason he's going live is he just got word back about something going on with his health that he wanted to share with everybody.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And it didn't sound like it was good news. So,
Okay.
Please come on back at 1 o'clock and for
Explanation for contingent things that exist. Again, per my comment that denying this would commit one to empirical skepticism, because then that means that contingent beings can come out of nowhere. Premise number 4 is going to be contingent beings.
What was 3?
By,
They can't come out of nowhere.
Premise 5: contingent beings are not explained by themselves, because that would be illogical, and if anybody wants to challenge that, I would go into why. Premise 6: contingent beings are explained by some other being. Per premise 4, premise 5. 7: the other beings that explain the other being that explains the existence of contingent beings must be either contingent or necessary. Per premise 6: the other being that explains the existence of contingent beings cannot also be contingent, because more contingency by itself will result in something existing inexplicably. Which comes from premise 2. Therefore, there must exist at least one necessary being that explains the existence of contingent beings. And this I will gives me justification to hold to this view. I yield my time.
What's the argument that all contingent beings that exist must have an explanation for their existence?
Denial of it commits my opponent to empirical skepticism.
Why?
Because then you're committed to the view that all beings can pop out from nowhere.
No, I'm not.
No.
I'm asking. Look, if I deny the premise,
slow this down.
Yeah,
Because this is just a pack of bullshit.
well, right, and my apologies to the audience, but we're going to actually back that section up and listen to it again, because there was so much nonsense in it. And you noticed that I didn't notice whether it was Detroit or Pogan who responded after he conceded his time, that they hit on that point about there having to be some explanation, and if you don't agree with that, then you are agreeing that beings can just pop out of nowhere. And I find that very interesting, because at the base level of his and Sal's belief, they believe beings popped out of nowhere, and the excuse for that is that an all-powerful being made them pop out of nowhere.
But you'll notice in premise 5 and 6, he slides over to other being instead of other cause. Well, the reason I exist is because my dad kept the thermostat around 68 degrees, and also, all the other sperms died out, and this one fast one really bright one made it across, and that's why I exist. Not another being, but the thermostat, right? So he slides in other being, and this is a precept trick, I think. But go ahead and run it over.
Yeah, and the other thing is okay. And that's fine. I mean, when it comes to explaining your views, explaining what word am I looking at? Like what your logic is. Like any recession of beliefs in logic is going to ground out somewhere. Okay, but what they're basically doing is grounding it in something arbitrary. Whereas in other logical groundings, it's based in the fact that they logically came to a bottom that has to be axiomatic. Okay, but what they're doing is they're saying their bottom is God and that it is axiomatic, and not that and they rest on the idea that axioms don't have to have an explanation. But I say they're wrong in right from the get-go of claiming that God is their axiomatic bottom to all things. And then by doing that, they put themselves in the position of not having to give any kind of explanation.
Yeah. They're trying to make
Which is working.
Go ahead.
I totally get that. We tend to believe what we can understand and control.
You can bop ahead a bit.
That's perfectly fine. But if there's a divine being there who's not going to be subject to our whims.
Yeah, I just want to get Canadian going here a little bit.
Explored that.
Yeah, I'm not.
Try to find out where he starts laying out the
On the
premises.
second part, I will make an argument that
Here we go.
people can respond to. That's the position, I plan this all. So basically, I'm going to be arguing that theists are justified in believing in a necessary existence that explains all contingent beings. So we begin with the assertion that contingent beings exist. Well, the premise, I guess. I do not expect this premise to be challenged, that contingent beings exist. And I just want to draw your attention that this is not the standard principle of sufficient reason, which says that all contingent facts have an explanation. Right? This is that all contingent beings exist. And the second premise, which I unfortunately anticipated, is that all contingent beings that exist must have an explanation for their existence. Denial of this premise, I argue, will commit my opponent, Hogan, to empirical skepticism. Not that he knows what that is. I'm just saying he ought to jot down this note. Premise 3 is there is an explanation for contingent things that exist. Again, per my comment that denying this would commit one to empirical skepticism, because then that means that contingent beings can come out of nowhere. Premise number 4 is going to be contingent beings are explained by themselves or by something else, per premise 3. Premise 5, contingent beings are not explained by themselves, because that would be illogical, and if anybody wants to challenge that, I'm going to why. Premise 6, contingent beings are explained by some other being, per premise 4.
There you
go. 7, the other beings that explain...
right there. Other being. That's where he injected other being on P6. Go ahead. I'll find P7 again.
Well, and here's the thing. I'm going to be able to, I believe Tentaise was referring to this. He's saying that Canadian Catholic wrote this argument out in the comment section of this video. So as soon as we get past it again, I'm going to shrink the screen down and bring the comments up. We'll see if we can find it so that we can, read it like that.
Okay.
Just so we're not missing anything. I mean, because I'm hearing a whole lot of contradictory ideas coming out of them right now.
Yeah, when you have an argument and it consists of 7 or 8 premises and then bang conclusion, I call bullshit.
The other being that explains the existence of contingent beings cannot also be contingent, because more contingency by itself will result in something existing inexplicably, which comes with this
Get into the necessary being.
There's at least one necessary being that explains the existence of contingent beings. And this, I will argue, gives me justification to hold to this view. I yield my time.
Yeah, this is
the argument for the premise that all contingent beings that exist must have an explanation for their existence.
Denial of it commits my opponent to empirical skepticism.
Why?
Because then you're committed to the view that all beings can pop out of nowhere.
All right, that's where we left off last time. Back.
So he's trying. Oh my God, these people. So he's trying to pull necessary being God out of his ass, basically. And he does it. He slides over to the other being. So he's got you thinking about beings, right? That would cause all the contingent beings. And he's trying to make the case that, that there has to be a reason for that, right? And that reason has to be a necessary being. Well, why is it a fucking being? Why not physics? Physics.
Right. And then I'm wondering, I went by something that one of the other interlocutors posted here. Maybe he responded to that. I'm not seeing.
It's probably on the bottom somewhere. Do you have a link to the video in the description? You don't have it in the description, so I'd have to go find this damn thing.
But if you bring up Modern Day Debate Channel, it's like the 3rd video back, and the title is in the thumbnail. So
I think this is a case of Canadian Catholic having been educated beyond his intelligence. And that happens a lot.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I balk at the word. I mean, I don't know what his education is, but I think you're trying to say something different than education, because if you're educated beyond your intelligence, that's kind of a contradiction in terms there.
Well, it's problematic because if you're educated beyond your intelligence, you'll use a lot of, words and ideas and stuff, but you won't be able to put them together in an intelligent manner. And that's what happens. That's what we saw here. So, I mean, this argument is just bullshit. We could just slide through it. We don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I just do want to find, and I think it was Hogan had a post up here with a bunch of replies. It might be in here. I'm going to check here, and if I don't find it, then we will move on.
It's almost like the dominoes argument that they make that the universe can't be infinite because if the domino fell, an infinite number of time ago, it would never get here. And it's just sort of a wrong-headed way to look at the universe.
All right, I'm not seeing it, so
I'll find it and take a look at it later. But I'm pretty sure it's just garbage. So
yeah. See if you can find it, and maybe we can bring it up to read over on the weather report today. All right, let's get back to this. So we've been at this for it's almost an hour and a half.
Yeah, we should probably wrap her. So
yeah, pretty quick here. We'll wrap it. And then I believe that even though we didn't get too far today, from 52 to 102 so far, so we covered 10 minutes. Page unresponsive. What? Oh, maybe YouTube's going to decide for me. Well, as a matter of fact, I think YouTube is deciding for me. It says page unresponsive. So I would have to reboot the.
No, I'm not.
Oh, here we go.
I'm asking, look, if I deny the premise, or I take it this is just a variation on the principle of sufficient reason. You're just replacing contingent facts. You're just replacing contingent facts. You're just replacing contingent facts with contingent.
Okay,
notes.
right there. That's another thing that we deal with over on Speech Channel an awful lot. Canadian Catholic was just off the rails a few moments ago and barked right down Pogan's throat. And I do the same thing. I get triggered from being interrupted, but he just got done being triggered for being interrupted, and then he turns around and does the same thing. I mean, I don't get that.
Yep.
Again, I have to fault myself for doing the same thing. But it's just wrong. It's wrong when I do it. It's wrong when anybody else does it. And going back to what Speed said a few moments ago, it seems to me when it comes to syllogisms, theists seem to always have much longer syllogisms than other people for some reason.
Yeah, yeah, they do.
But it's still a formulation of PSR in a sense. So can you explain to me why that particular premise is justified?
Because denying it commits you to a self-defeating philosophy.
That's not a justification for the premise, nor do I accept that empirical skepticism
What's
is
your argument? What's your argument against empirical skepticism? How can you make knowledge claims by being an empirical skeptic?
Let's just get some clarity.
Why do you run away? You're chickening out. You're chickening out because you know you're going to get manhandled in a conversation. So you're chickening out. Why?
Let's just get some.
All right, that's a good place to start.
Yeah. Okay.
One more off the rails for Canadian Catholic. I mean, and to be fair, these guys, they claim that they were friends and they interact all the time. This just might be an example of how they interact over on Discord, and it could be one of those things where,
yeah, I'm not buying that they're friends and this is all an act. I don't know.
Well, I'm not saying it's an act, but it could be one of those situations where, look, we can talk however we want to each other, but at the end of the day, no harm is assumed by either side. Like the wolf and the sheepdog, clocking into work, and then they go on.
Yeah. Having beers afterwards. Okay.
Right. I mean, I'm just trying to steel man what they claim is going on here. So, all right. That's a good place to stop. So when we start up again on Speeds later, we can have.
What is the timestamp that we were at?
It is 10. I mean, it was just past 102.
102. Okay.
Yeah, so somewhere between 102 and 105.
Okay.
And then the funny thing is, there we go, another boomer moment. I had just made note of the timestamp before I got rid of the screen, and Speed immediately asked me what that timestamp is. Gone, already gone. And I don't even do drugs right now, so or alcohol. But yeah, we'll find it. It'll be fun to find it and hear him rage again anyway. So and I still go ahead.
For the kids out in the argument or out in the audience, for you little fucking Milliweenies, and this whole thing about boomer moments, I've been doing this since I was 9 years old. I don't know about you, but I've been forgetting shit and misplacing shit and knocking shit over. And what did we call it when we were 9?
Yeah,
Milliweenie moment.
I don't even know. I mean, I'm just using the vernacular. I mean, because 99% of the time when someone gets accused of being a boomer, they're not a boomer. I just happen to be. I am really a boomer. So. But yeah, it's almost back to the original discussion we had. Is that boomer has become a pejorative, and it's basically degrading, an entire group of human beings, because the boomer is a generation of human beings, just like the X generation and millennials and all that. So
the thing about that is, back in the 60s, we thought we were the shit, man. We were it. We had long hair. We were smoking dope. We were fucking protesting. We were constructing civil rights and fighting the war. And we were making fun of what the hell did we call? What do we call them? The establishment. Yeah. So boomers now become the establishment. It's the same thing. It's like, okay, we're turning over a new, this goes on and on. It will never end.
All right. We're gonna end here. We're gonna finish this up on Speed's channel today at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. Answers in Atheism, and I still have hopes that we're going to get through this, because there's a whole question and answer period that we're not going to touch on very much. We'll hear a few of the questions and see what happens. But even though we didn't get too much further today here on the Rage, I still have hopes that we can finish it up today on Speeds in short order. Because here's the thing: is in the hour plus we've watched, we've basically seen this debate and what the outcome of it is. Okay. So I don't think there's too much more to watch that would be of any value, but we will wrap it up on Speeds. And there's a few other things that Speed wants us to talk about on his show later. So, yes, Ox, I do have to go take my Geritol as soon as this is over. You're absolutely right. But so come on over there today. Also, in less than an hour now, at 1 o'clock, Knox going to go live and tell you about what he heard from his doctors, which I don't even know yet. And so, please stop by for that. It doesn't mean he's back for good or anything. He's just, giving you an update about what's going on with him. And
1 hour? 1 hour?
Yeah, 1 hour, in just less than 1 hour. Yep. Please come over to Godless Grannies tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, and we are going to be talking about all kind of geeky stuff. And the topic I'm going to bring to the table is Star Trek and the benefits that Star Trek gave society as far as the technology it inspired and the inspiration it gave to entertainment industry, as far as other sci-fi shows and what have you. So, and then there'll be a whole slew of other topics that the other guests are going to bring. So thank you so much for being here. And as Knox says, be the conversation. Join us at 3 p.m. over on Answers in Atheism. And I don't have an outro screen, but I do say this, that Knock loves all you guys that are patrons. He appreciates you so much. And you guys are the shit. So we'll see you next time. I'll be back.